Sometimes when you compromise who you are to appease others, you slowly feel yourself begin to die inside. It's been an amazing journey. I suffer. I'm all the way up. All the way up. I'm all the way up.
Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Angelic Alchemy, and this is Unmasking Spiritual Deception, Liberation from Witchcraft and Narcissism. So this is episode 20, and it is about the dynamic between the divine feminine and the divine masculine on the twin flame journey. Kingdom spouses, divine counterparts, and the pain that we go through for enduring separation and how we are played against each other and we can't get on the same wavelength or page for a while because of all the interference and because of our own trauma and wounds and all that fun stuff. So let's get into it. Before our masculines become awakened, they operate under the illusion that we don't know when they're trying to deceive us. They really think that they can lie all the time and we will just continue to believe them. They don't believe us when we tell them that God tells us things. So therefore, they don't believe us when we tell them that we are twin flames or God-ordained spouses. They may pretend to for a while, and they may go back and forth with it, but they don't actually believe it, which is made apparent by how they treat us. They have their own darkness to overcome, and they have to go through their own tower moments and betrayals to break them down to a point where they can seek the truth, because only then can you find yourself, and therefore find God. But because the love runs so deep, we have unconditional love and ridiculous amounts of empathy and compassion towards them. We end up engaging in this extremely toxic dynamic for a long time. Some longer than others, I'm sure. But until we learn the lessons and heal the parts of us that we trigger in one another, we will repeat the same karmic cycles. I can't say for sure if everyone's twin flame journey plays out like mine has so far, but I suspect that it's at least very similar. These connections are so heavily attacked that it doesn't even make sense on any level of logical thinking. These demonic narcissists and parasitic entities that are cleverly disguised as family and friends all collaborate to turn us against each other and destroy any hope that we have of being happy together. Acknowledging that aspect of the journey, I'd say that it's just about guaranteed that one of the counterparts, at least, will struggle with lust, and the other will struggle with people-pleasing or a similar dynamic. We will both fight addictions and various kinds of trauma, internal wounds that need to be healed, karmic lessons that we are meant to teach each other by showing the other what we most need to heal by mirroring it back to them. Prior to the realization of what the connection actually is, it's likely to be a huge toxic mess. My story is no different. There's a lot of pain, lies, betrayals, and so much damage done. There were serious relational issues that occurred, and deep and severe trauma was inflicted on both of us. In my case, I was the one who was targeted, as my counterpart was the one who was manipulated and coerced to go along with whatever plans they concocted, of course never revealing their actual intent to him. So there was a lot of pain that I endured due to his refusal to stand up to these people for me or fight for our connection. And then this needed to be resolved. But instead, he took space. He went on autopilot. He wasn't thinking about what he was doing. He was being impulsive and not thinking about the repercussions of his actions or about all the space and distance that he was putting between us and how that would affect me. Now, he may feel like there's no going back because after he decided to selfishly take space to avoid having to be vulnerable and deal with his emotions or take accountability for his actions, then I wanted space. And I started thriving in it. He left me in the darkness, knowing that I was lost and I needed help. I was like a hollow shell of what I once was, left alone with this gaping hole that had been ripped in my heart for what felt like forever. But finally, light came in, and I began to see things for what they were. And then, all of a sudden, I regretted believing anything he said and ever trusting him. I suddenly felt unbelievably dumb for giving him the benefit of the doubt all those times, for ignoring my intuition, even though I knew better. I wanted so bad to believe that he was faithful and that he loved, valued, and respected me. So bad that it made me ignore the red flags time and time again. Now, of course, I'm not completely naive, and I've never been stupid. I knew that he lied and that he cheated. But I talked myself into believing that this was because of the addictions, which, for the most part, it was. The drugs made him do it, I said. Being a recovering addict myself, I knew firsthand how some drug addictions could bring out the worst in you. An opiate addiction will turn you into a demonic version of yourself, and the whole time you will swear you haven't changed and everyone else is the problem. Having experienced this, I was able to have empathy for him in that situation, and God himself had verified to me that this was my divine counterpart, my twin flame. The man that God had ordained to be my spouse who shared the same energetic blueprint as me. Knowing this and having this empathy and compassion kept me stuck in a cycle of emotional turmoil and mental torture, always wanting to help him, waiting for him to, quote, wake up and, quote, come back. Knowing who the man you love more than anything in the world really is on the inside, and then seeing flashes of that person sporadically over the years while watching him slowly turn into your worst nightmare is enough to drive anyone insane. And that's without the gang of immature, sadistic witches doing constant rituals on me to literally drive me insane so they could get rid of me to benefit off of it. And then doing rituals on him to make him toxic, promiscuous, and not commit, among other things. Now, I find myself needing even more distance and space. And he's probably starting to regret how things turned out. He feels like there's unfinished business between us, something he can't fix now. And on top of that, he's gotten himself into quite a big mess of his own making. Call it digging his own grave or building his own prison cell. He made his bed. Now he has to lie in it. He put so much space between us that if he ever wanted to repair things, it would be a long uphill climb. There was always going to be an argument, and he desperately tried to avoid this. He knew that I have every right to be angry, to yell, curse him out for what he did. But instead of facing it, he dodged all accountability. And in doing so, he robbed me of something that I needed. The chance to express my pain, maybe start healing, and possibly start a change. He also did this because he doesn't want to change. He didn't think he should have to. He had some fantasy in his head where he would be able to keep me small and hidden so he could continue on with his selfish, immature behaviors and not have to face the consequence of losing me or accepting that his disrespect and betrayal ruined our connection. If he just let everyone go on thinking that I was the problem and keeping me isolated from them, which wasn't hard because they all hated me, not because I ever did anything, but because they were jealous, envious, intimidated, etc., then no one would ever know that he actually loved me, and he could go on getting the attention and validation he needed from others. Because he never took the time to understand his own emotional trauma and emotions, he couldn't understand mine. Now he's overwhelmed, and his default is to detach from his feelings and shut down completely. He might finally be realizing how he sabotaged his own happiness, not just by what he did, but also by what he refused to do. He feared commitment, so rather than getting close and vulnerable, he cheated. He was scared of losing himself or feeling trapped, so he went towards someone who didn't have actual chemistry with or emotions towards. Someone he knew that he could control and that would do whatever he wanted her to do. He thought he had the perfect plan, thought he had everything figured out. But by acting and living in this greedy, selfish, manipulative manner and colluding with individuals with similar mindsets and lifestyles, he got tangled up with this demonic and extremely manipulative ex who he thought was naive and sweet, only to find out that she was playing a role and actually pretending to be like I am. Well, pretending to be me, if we're going to be blunt. She's using witchcraft to confuse him and also to drain my energy through our connection so she could use my essence to pretend to be me. She casts love spells consistently, always binding him to her. And as if that wasn't bad enough, he's a narcissistic mother, secretly working behind the scenes who at some point joined forces with this lunatic ex to get me out of the way and keep him trapped. Teaching this ex her own dark magic to work together to keep him stuck and drained for their own gain. It's a mess of illusions, lies, and dark, low vibrational energy, to put it mildly. He may finally be starting to realize that he has a habit of destroying the very things that bring light into his life. Maybe it wasn't his original intention, but trying to escape discomfort, he created even more obstacles for himself, especially between us. There's a grayness around it all, like the color drained out the moment he made that decision. And if we're being honest, this person that he portrayed himself as to fit in with these people, who quite frankly are the worst kind you can imagine, masked as, quote, good people, never really fit him. That's not who he truly is inside, which is why he had to work so hard to numb out and cut himself off from his emotions. The whole thing was a charade, whether he realized it or not. It was completely hollow, a distraction disguised as a solution. Getting involved with someone else wasn't ever about love, and he knew it. It was about avoiding what he felt with me, because what we had was intense, real, and he wasn't ready for it. And unfortunately for him, the person he, quote, chose to try and distract himself from his deep, uncomfortable emotions he felt towards me is an absolute psychopath. This individual set out from the beginning to manipulate, control, and destroy, because she was obsessed with me. Well, with one-upping me, and knocking me down to a level where she felt that she had something over me, which for this bitch was homeless, mentally unstable, and having everyone in the community think that I was lazy, evil, gold-digging, drug-addict prostitute. Ironically, all of the exact traits that she possesses. She presented herself as if she were everything that I am, after doing extensive stalking, studying, and spiritual spying, and hacking, of course. After she became proficient in astral projecting, a skill that I highly suspect that she learned from his mother, she became aware of who I am on a soul level, what my destiny is, and all the benefits and perks that come along with it. This drove her to become even more obsessed with destroying me so she could, quote, take my place and act as if she were me. Showing up in the world wearing my essence, attracting my manifestations and opportunities, and using my energy to create wealth. She also is deep into some kind of fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, possibly all of the above, and more. She used my information as much as possible, presenting herself as me not only to benefit off of it, but to simultaneously ruin my reputation, my credit, finances, relationships, stability, etc. He had no idea how absolutely crazy this person actually was. He knew her for a long time and therefore thought he had her figured out. But his lack of understanding of his own emotions blocks him from being able to understand the emotions of others. So he couldn't spot a fake. He also has an extremely warped and limited view of women, gender roles, and most everything he knew about relationships and connections with others, which he probably learned from his malignant narcissist of a mother, who literally intentionally sabotaged him his whole life by giving him bad advice and destructive belief systems. He thought commitment elsewhere would quiet the noise in his mind, relieve the pressure, but it only deepened the disconnect. It just swallowed his time, energy, and attention, and he's getting nothing back in return. In truth, all it did was just put more space between us. I don't know if he sees everything for what it is. If not, he will soon. This is a form of self-sabotage, a way to run from the fire instead of facing it. He was overwhelmed by depths, chemistry, and by what awakened in him. And instead of standing in it with me, he ran. Influenced and manipulated by all of these evil people around him that he trusted and believed to have his best interests at heart. Maybe he thought I'd chase him. I guess I did for a while. Although that's not how I viewed it at the time. I thought I was being the bigger person. Treating others how I wanted to be treated. Sacrificing for love. That kind of thing. But I didn't realize for a long time when that had gotten to a level of self-destruction. And I was allowing myself to slowly die for someone who I believe loved me and would do the same for me. It took a lot to open my eyes. So much betrayal. So many lies. So much damage done. Until I finally had no other choice. I had to choose myself. I stepped back and I found clarity. I saw how unequal it was. How I was pouring into someone who was pretending not to feel it just to protect himself. And at the same time projecting their issues onto me rather than deal with them. As well as all the pent-up anger he held inside, which in reality had absolutely nothing to do with me. But he was stuck in illusions, not seeing clearly, and being purposely deceived, manipulated, and controlled by everyone around him as they smiled in his face and framed me as the villain, and allowing all of it to go on for far too long and getting in way too deep. I think that's the part that haunts him now. Not just what he did, but why. Told himself lies to justify it, said he needed space, said it wasn't the right time. But deep down, he knew better. He knew I mattered. He knew he cared. But he couldn't sit in the discomfort long enough to be honest with either of us. Instead, he made decisions that looked like detachment, but were really cries for control. It's unfortunate that he doesn't know any other way to be. He doesn't know how to actually let somebody love him. He thinks you have to get mad and fight over him. So he'd test me to see if I care. Engineering situations to emotionally bait me to see if I would react. So he could feel secure in knowing that I still cared. Not realizing how absolutely cruel it is to do experiments with my emotions since he himself doesn't ever tap into his. He lacks empathy. But his persona that he has so well ingrained as a result of his ego defense mechanisms, creating it for survival, it hit it well. And every time that I saw it, I blamed it on the drugs. But when the drugs weren't an issue and I had no more excuses left that I could give him, I was forced to face the truth. His comfort zone was more important to him than protecting me and pouring into our connection. His selfish, immature lifestyle meant more to him than having a loving, stable family. And his, quote, friends' opinions were more important to him than the truth. He was convinced that having people in your space that believed you were a good person was more important than being alone and actually being one. So now, all he's left with is consequences. Gray skies where there used to be color. Emptiness where there used to be connection. You might even see it as kind of a punishment. Or he could still be trying to blame everything on me for not falling for the illusion. Or maybe he does want forgiveness now. Maybe he wishes that he just would have said, I was scared, I felt too much, and I didn't know how to handle it. But he didn't. And the silence grew, and more time passed. And now all he has is the weight of what could have been, knowing that the only thing he proved by running was just how deep he actually did care. And maybe realizing that everyone around him knew it the whole time, and that's why they did this. I don't think he's ready to face the full extent of the damage he's caused. Maybe because deep down he knows it's heavy, and that weight is overwhelming him. But he can't keep running from it. What he really needs is to develop a healthier way to cope with emotions. Ways to ground yourself, to return to baseline without hurting others in the process. Because he's not the only one suffering here. I'm hurting too, and so are my children on a psychological level. It's nothing that can't be healed and mended, but first it has to be acknowledged. It's only a matter of time until he sees it, if he hasn't begun to already. I feel like he might be getting to feel the guilt, especially when it comes to involving this third party. For a long time, I think he felt bad for how he treated her. But now he's starting to see that she actually had an agenda all along. There was a plan. Cold, calculated, and intentional. And it was always to destroy from the very beginning. And he played right into it. And while he might want to show me that we still share the same values, the truth is, it doesn't feel that way. Not anymore. His actions spoke way louder than any words ever could. I now see him as someone who betrayed me, not just emotionally, but with multiple people. While I stayed loyal and committed, what he did was low, and it made me feel stupid for believing in him and for loving him. He weaponized distance where I used the space to heal, to grow, to reclaim myself. He used it to avoid, to procrastinate, to spiral. And in that space, I came to terms with a truth that hurt. He made me feel unworthy and unappreciated, and I think part of him meant to, because deep down, he didn't feel worthy of me. So now he feels lost, drained, pulled in 100 directions because he allows it. Because running is easier than standing firm, or so he thinks. When the pressure builds, he turns to distractions and listens to all the wrong voices. He dreams of reconciliation, of hope, of things magically getting better, but there's no action behind the fantasy, no grounded effort, and that's the real issue. So now he's in a reckoning, standing on the edge of repeating the same cycle all over again. I don't think he wants to, but unless something shifts within him, he will. Because this isn't just about external circumstances. It's about the internal cycle he hasn't yet broken or acknowledged. A cycle of giving his power away, of calling avoidance strength, and of mistaking detachment for healing. And I can't be part of that loop anymore. Whether it's played out in this lifetime or many before, which I'm sure it has. And I've tried to forgive. I've tried to hold space, but the cycle just kept repeating. And the difference this time is I decided to break it. I chose growth. I chose healing. I'm not just sitting in the pain anymore. I'm transmuting it. Meanwhile, he continues to get caught in his realizations, and I know that he does have moments of clarity. Sometimes I can see his mind taking in and seeing the truth in the information that I'm trying to get to him. But when it comes to acting in the now, he falters. Hindsight is always 20/20, but that doesn't fix what he breaks in the moment. What he needs now isn't me. It's solitude, stillness, maybe even help, possibly support or therapy of some kind. And that's not a judgment. I would be in therapy if I had the ability at the moment, because this feels deeper than just emotional overwhelm. There's an undercurrent of depression, self-sabotage, and fear of intimacy, and he needs to understand his own deactivating patterns, the way he pushes away love and sabotages commitment, because right now, he's not pursuing the life he truly wants. He's caught in a passive loop that creates pressure and confusion and hurt for everyone involved. We have been through immense trauma from narcissistic parents and from all these evil people. And although it was not our fault what happened to us, it does become our responsibility to heal it so we can live our lives fulfilled, and also so we don't pass it on to our children. Because what we do not fight, we leave for our children to fight. And that, to me, is absolutely unacceptable. And I refuse. So, for now, I will continue this journey alone. And until he chooses to confront himself, then nothing changes. Not for him, and not for us. So, I'm going to end it here on this one. I hope you all have a great day. Remember to stay prayed up. Love yourself. Give yourself grace. Love each other. God loves you, and I love you. And I'll see y'all in the next one.